Hello everybody, my name is Mike Geig and welcome to another one of our live sessions. This week, well, not this week, today we are doing another scripting primer. So we did our first scripting primer a few weeks ago and it was good, but we didn't move very fast, which is fine. So we're doing another one to kind of keep the pace going. So hello. Now, real quick rules for our scripting primer, so you kind of know how this is going to go down before we get started. Just like last time, we will be going over beginner scripting concepts, and we'll be going very slow. My emphasis is going to be on chat, answering questions. So please feel free to use the chat and ask any questions that you might have, and I'll go nice and slow and try to answer any questions that you might have, and we'll cover whatever stuff that we can cover in the allotted time, and if we don't get to everything, we'll do another one of these sessions again. So, yeah, so like I said, we're going slow, we're answering questions, all that fun stuff. So that's kind of our point today. Before I start, like always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to follow us on Twitter at Unity3D, at Mike Geig, which is me, at Will Goldstone, and at The Ant Ranch. So follow us on Twitter, ask us questions, send us funny pictures of cats and dogs. I don't care, whatever. But that's how you get a hold of us through Twitter if you would like to. I see that I already have a few questions here. Why were the scripting languages chosen, C# and JavaScript, and not Java, Python, Perl, etc.? No idea. Someone made the decision, and that's how it went. I have no idea. So, yeah. Boo is an option. Everyone always forgets that. It's C#, JavaScript, which we call Unity script, and Boo. I've never used Boo. There's not a whole lot of information on it. So yeah. Someone said C++ is UDK territory. Kinda not really. UDK uses the Unreal script, which is like a C++ hyphen Lua derivative, which is kind of not really C++. But anyway, I'm digressing now. I've done some UDK stuff, and the script is different. It's certainly different. But anyway. So, here we are in Unity Editor. So I'm just going to go ahead and hop right back into it. So last time we met, we talked about variables and data types. And that's pretty much what we spent the entire time on. We talked about ints, floats, bools, chars, strings. We talked about doubles. We talked about a little bit about scope. And so what I want to do is I want to start real quick with public versus private, and then I'm going to get right into operators. All right. Real quick question here from Epic Test Dummy, which is an awesome name. Will there be more and easier tutorials than you already have? Well, we did the first scripting primer, which was recorded. Actually, if you go to the unity3d.com/learn, you'll find all of our tutorials. You'll find all of our archived live training, and we have a lot of just very beginner, beginner-friendly videos done already on all of this stuff. So just check it out. As a matter of fact, let me I'll just pull up the site right now, because why not plug Unity while I'm here? If you go to unity3d.com and just click the Learn button right there, boom, you get access to all of our stuff, and we've got tons of tutorials, pre-recorded tutorials. And then if you go to either live training to see all the training that we have coming up, you can also go to archive, and here are all our live trainings. We start with very basic stuff, and we kind of get more and more complicated as we go along. So yes, there are some beginner videos, and they're available to you, and you can check it out. All right, let's see here. Sorry, I'm just trying to read through these chats. Yes, this video is being recorded, and yes, it will be uploaded. It will be uploaded sometime today or tomorrow. So all the live trainings are uploaded, so always check them out. Okay, so let's go ahead and real quick, let's kind of refresher on scripting, and let's talk about public versus private variables. So if you remember, to create a script, you just right-click down here in the project view. You go to create, and I'm working in C#. I work with C#. So I'll create a new script here. I will name it public, private, I don't know, whatever. Just something kind of descriptive like that. So that creates our public private script, and I'm going to go ahead and attach it to the main camera by clicking and dragging it and dropping it on the main camera. Oh, what'd it do? Let me see here. Something happened there. So I just created, that's what I did wrong. I just created a template for my scripts to not be the basic one, and I forgot to put the keyword in here. And I don't even remember what that keyword is now. Shoot. Anyway, so all the scripts I'm going to make today, I'm going to have to manually place the name in there until I fix my template. Whoops. I guess that's what I get for trying to do new things. Anyway, so yeah, this won't have been a problem for you. This was only a problem for me because I changed my template, which obviously was a mistake. But so basically the class name has to be the same as the file name. All right there. And my template just didn't do that automatically, so I had to add it. But all right, so now real quick here, let me just go ahead and add this to my camera by clicking and dragging it. Click and drag. There we go. And now you'll see my camera has the public private script, which I just created. So let's talk about public and private. Public and private are for variables that belong to a class and not particularly any function, right? So if I were to put some variable inside the start method here, it would belong to start method and not necessarily to the class altogether. Only by declaring a variable outside of any function but inside of a class is that variable available to the class. And we have two types of access modifiers is what they're called. One's called public and one's called private. So if I want, let's say I want a health and a level, right? So I might do something like float health equals 100. So this script has a health variable of 100. Oh yeah, I forgot to zoom. There we go. Has a health variable of 100. All right, and then let's say I want to do float level, and let's say this character or whatever is level 10. Okay, very simple. All right, these are both by default private variables. All right, private variables basically mean that these variables are only usable in this class. You can only access them between these two brackets. Anywhere else outside of the class, down here, up here, in a different script, anywhere else, you cannot access them. They are private. We do that for security reasons. We do that so other scripts don't accidentally change things and break your game, which wouldn't be very good. So by default, these are private. If I wanted to explicitly state that they were private, I could just write private. But writing private is not necessary because by default, they are private. Now, the opposite of that is public. So let's say I wanted health to be public. I could just write public right here. Public float health, all right? So it is a variable named health that is of type float that is public and is equal to 100, all right? What this means is I can access this variable anywhere I have an object of this class, right? I can put it I can access it from pretty much anywhere. Now, we're not going to really talk about that just yet because that's kind of an advanced topic, accessing one class through another and instantiation and all that stuff. That's really not important. The reason public is awesome for now, right, is because now that I've made this variable public, if I go back into Unity, if I look on my camera, you will see that health appears here in the editor. All right? What that enables me to do is that enables me to modify this variable through the editor, right? And those changes will take place in the script, right? So if I'm testing my scene and I'm like, oh, I don't really like 100 health, maybe I want 200 health or 300 health. I don't really want to have to go back into my script, change it, and then play my scene, right? I can do that here from the editor. For instance, if I hit play, and my scene is playing, and I want to modify this while my scene is playing, I can, right? I don't have to go back into my script. I don't have to stop playing and start playing again. I can just modify it right here through the script. Now, like anything that gets modified while the scene is playing, as soon as I stop playing, it snaps back to what it was. But you can see how having it here in the editor makes it very nice for me to edit things and test things out without necessarily having to constantly go back to the script. some of the conversations going on in chat is about the fact that I did not put an F after my floats, which is this here. It is correct that you only need to put the F for floats if there's a decimal place. That being said, it is correct, the red pill, that you should put the F there. That way there's just no ambiguity. But there's really no negatives to not having the F if it's not a decimal. It's just one of those discipline things. You know, you don't have to have it, but you know, it's always a good idea. Okay, so that's my real quick spiel about public versus private. There are a lot of implications of public and private, but right now, if you're just learning to code, don't worry about it. Don't concern yourself with what that actually means. In your head, for now, just think private, it won't show in the editor, public it will. Okay? There's a lot more to it than that, but that's sufficient for now. And really, if you're writing all of your code, you'll know theoretically how to use it appropriately, and you're not going to break it, is the idea. But when you start working with other people and you are building much more complex scripting, then the information of what public and private actually means becomes very important. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so that's public versus private. Let's go ahead and nix this script, because that pretty much covers what I want to talk about there. All right, so now let's move on. So we talked about variables, public, private, scope, all those things. Let's talk about our operators. And operators, we're going to kind of go, you know, quick-ish with operators. And again, feel free to ask questions in the chat, because that's what we're most concerned with. I see a few people have asked questions that don't really pertain to scripting, and so I'm just not talking about those, because this is aimed specifically at scripting for beginners. If you have other questions, feel free to message me on Twitter later, but I do only want to kind of field questions about scripting, beginner level scripting, and stuff like that. I don't really want to get too far off topic. Okay, so let's talk about operators. I'm going to go ahead and create a new script here. I'm going to call this script operators, and I'll copy that name because I'm going to have to type it into my script because I screwed up my template. This is what I get for trying to be progressive and forward thinking by creating my own template. I just get a big pain. Alright, and I need to keep converting my line endings. I really got to fix that. Alright. Taking a sip of water there. So, let's talk about operators. And for operators, I don't need an update method, so I'm going to get rid of that. And so, operators are basically ways that we can modify our variables, right? So if you've ever taken algebra, right, or any math that has variables and stuff in it, or pretty much any math, you know about operators already. Operators are things like the plus sign, the minus sign, multiply, divide, right? These are operators, okay? And so we can perform mathematical equations, right? And basically, all of programming really is mathematical equations, if you think about it. It's at what level of abstraction you're really looking at. So let's consider this. If I want to add 5 to 6, I can simply just type 5 plus 6, right, with a semicolon at the end. And I have a mathematical operation. Now, this isn't really going to do anything because I'm not assigning or doing anything with this. It's obviously going to give me an error. But real simply, I can just do some addition. What we really want to do is we want to assign this to something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say int x equals 5 plus 6. Okay? And this here is a statement. So after this line of code, we will have a variable named x, which is an integer, which will equal 5 plus 6, or 11, right? And it's as basic as that. Yeah, people in chat are talking about that. Okay, so yeah, it's fairly simple, straightforward arithmetic, right? I have the plus sign, I have the minus sign. Divide is this forward slash right here. This is division, okay? Multiplication is the asterisks. If you are in a QWERTY keyboard or QWERTY keyboard, it is the symbol over the 8 key is our multiplication, all right? Using these, we can do pretty much any mathematical operation. All right, I can do something like I mean, even like that if I absolutely wanted to. Now, with complicated mathematical structures, we follow the basic algebraic principle. And what that is that parentheses come first, then powers, then multiplication, division, then addition, subtraction. So what is really going to happen here is we are going to get 5 times 6, all right, and then 6 divided by 5, the result of that divided by 2, the result of that multiplied by 2, and then we're going to take those two numbers and add them. Addition comes last, right? So basically, I'll get to modulus here in a second. Basically, we're following the basic order of operations with math. And a lot of times, newer programmers, when they're saying, oh, this number isn't coming out right, or this isn't happening right, or my character is dying too soon, or what's going on, what's wrong, what really they're doing is they're getting the order of operations incorrect. So if you're curious about order of operations, or if my explanation didn't quite cover it for you, feel free, just hop into Google and just say order of operations. That'll explain it completely, because there is a basic, understood, agreed upon order of operations, right? It's parentheses first, then powers, then multiplication, division, then addition, subtraction, and it happens in that order. So for instance, if I wanted my 6 plus 6 to happen before anything else, I could simply put it in parentheses. Then what we're going to get is 5 times 12, right? Then divided by 5, then divided by 2, and then multiplied by 2, and it just goes left to right. All right. Please excuse me, yeah, that's right. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally is the mnemonic for that, which is parentheses, exponential, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I had forgotten all about that. Thank you, Idea Wizard. That's a really good, easy way to remember that. Fantastic. All right, and so we can do this here with, you know, simple numbers. We could also do something like int x equals 5, y equals 10, int z equals x times y, right? So we don't necessarily need z. We don't necessarily need hard-coded numbers here. We can substitute variables. All right. One question: what's the difference between void start and void init? I don't know init. Do you mean awake? So there's a function called awake, which actually happens before start even happens. Yeah. So that playing dude said, pro tip, use brackets while doing mathematical operations. Absolutely incorrect. Do not use brackets with mathematical operations. Use parentheses. Absolutely. Brackets, no. And I don't know if you meant brackets or meant parentheses when you said brackets, but these are parentheses and these are brackets. And we use parentheses with math and not brackets. Brackets would not yield you anything useful. So parentheses are useful when doing math. Okay, so we talked about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, right? So let's talk about one more, is the modulus, which some people had actually talked about in chat here, so I'll show you here real quick. And the modulus is kind of this unknown operator, the unknown operator of the modulus. It's surprising, actually, to me how many people, even are programmers, that don't know what the modulus is, and it's very important. The modulus is basically an arithmetic operation that does not return the result of division, but returns the remainder of division. And it's absolutely imperative to know, to use if you want to do things like grids, right? To know which row and column you're in. So for instance, if I wanted to know 10 modulus 3, all right, the modulus is the percentage sign. In C#, it's also that, I think it's the percentage sign in JavaScript. C++. I believe the only one that doesn't use the modulus, or percentage sign as a modulus, is VB, and I believe that just uses the word mod. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, most languages that I'm familiar with use the percentage sign as the modulus, and basically the result of 10 modulus 3 is 1. Because 3 goes into 10 3 times to make 9, with a remainder of 1. Okay? If I were to say 30 modulus 3, I would get 0. Since it divides evenly, right? 30 times 10, or 3 times 10 is 30, right? With no remainder, the result of this modulus operation is 0. Okay? This is very important for doing grid math, right? So basically, if we need to know which row we're on. Let's say I have something that has let's say I have something that's 3 rows of 10, 3 rows of 10 columns, and I want to know what row 11 is on. All right, so I would do 11 modulus 10, 10 being the number of columns, right? And my result is 1, right? So I'm on the first row. Obviously, computer science is 0 index, so the first row is actually row number 2 because 0 is the first row. So if this was like, say, 9, I would return 0, and of course I would be on the smaller one. So actually, no, that's wrong. I'm sorry. 9 modulus 10 is 9. Anyway, I'm getting kind of sidetracked anyway. But basically the modulus returns the result, not the result, the remainder of division. And it's a fairly important operation when we start doing grid stuff and whatnot. Okay, so these are arithmetic operators, all right? They're very basic: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, parentheses, and modulus, okay? And we can use them in a bunch of different orders. We can mix and match them just to do whatever we want. Now let's talk about assignment operators, because there's a bunch of different types of operators. And the next type of operators is assignment operators. That's how items get values. And we've been using the most important assignment operator all along, the equal sign. The equal sign is an assignment operator, and that means it assigns a value to a variable. Values cannot get into variables ever without somewhere there being an equal sign, right? Because the values have to be put in there, right? Even like chances are, if you pass a value into a function and it comes back out of that function, or variable into a function and it comes back out of that function with a value, somewhere in that function they used an equal sign, the assignment operator. And the assignment operator works one very specific way. All right, it works left to right. So I would say x equals 8. That means the value of 8 is put into x. All right. I cannot say something like 8 equals x, right? Because 8 is a constant. I cannot take the value of x and put it into 8. That doesn't make any sense. All right. I will get to the differences between the equal sign and the double equal sign, but basically the single equal sign is an assignment, and double equal sign is an equality operator. And we'll talk about equality operators here in a little bit. So basically, assignment is always right to left, never left to right. It just doesn't work that way. So if you want to put the value in something, whatever you want to hold the value needs to be on the left. It just has to be. It's not even like there's a particular reason. That's just the way it is. So just know that whatever you're putting the value into goes on the left, always. And then whatever the value happens to be goes on the right. All right? So this does not work. This works just fine. And we can do something. I mean, we can go ahead and say something like x equals y, right? Or we could say something like x equals y plus 5, right? That all works just the same, right? Basically, in this case, we'd be taking y, which is 10, plus 5 for a total of 15, and putting it in x. And in this case, after this line of code runs, x will equal 15. Okay, so that's our basic assignment operator. And there's actually a few variations of the assignment operator. So this is our basic assignment operator. All right, so another assignment operator we want. Why is everyone throwing out pro tips in the chat? If you want to assign the right, just flip your monitor upside down. Oh man, you guys need to stay on point here. I'm too busy reading all your pro tips. I've lost my train of thought. Okay, so that's one assignment operator. And then there are many other assignment operators, but they are all basically derivatives of the one assignment operator plus a little bit extra. So for instance, I have here x equals 5. All right, now what I may want to do is x equals 7 plus x. Right? Let's say I want inside x to be the value I currently have plus 7. I could type this x equals 7 plus x, or I could type x equals x plus 7, and that doesn't really matter. The order is irrelevant there, because the same thing, 7 plus x or x plus 7 is irrelevant. But we could do this, but this is a bit kind of long-winded, right? X equals 7 plus x, or x equals x plus 7, right? That's a lot of working. Instead, what I can say x plus equals 7. This is an addition equals operator, or assignment operator, right? And so what this basically means is that I will be taking 7 and adding it to whatever currently is inside x. All right, that's it. X plus equals 7. Okay, it's just a shorthand version. It's just faster to type. Likewise, if I want to do the subtraction version of that, I can do x minus equals 7. All right, if I want to multiply, x times equals 7, divide, x divide equals 7. All right, that basically just says take what is ever in x and add 7, or take whatever is in x and subtract 7, take whatever is in x and multiply 7, and so on and so forth. All right, so that's just a shorthand version of the assignment operator. And it works just like this, and we can use these, just like the long version of it. Now, there is a special type of assignment operator, all right, which is called an incrementer or a decrementer, all right, and this is even more shorthand. So consider this: I want to add 1 to x. I could say x plus equals 1, all right. I'm sorry, I'm looking through the chat again. What is the difference between int and float? You can't just make float x equals 5. I could make float x equals 5. I'm just happen to be using ints. There's nothing at all wrong with saying float x equals 5. That certainly works. But int is my variable of choice. So someone asked, here, let me go back to this. Someone asked if we can do this. And no, that is incorrect syntax. That would be, yeah, that does not work. Instead, we put the operator first and then the equal sign. That is the syntax. The other one is incorrect syntax and will not work. All right. Another question: can you use modulus with floats? I don't know. You can't use modulus with floats in C++, but I've never tried it in C#. I don't think you can. I don't know. Let's find out real quick. So float z equals 6 modulus 4. Should give me a result of 2. And let me do float z equals 6f modulus 4f. That way we're sure they are floats. And let me see if I get my proper syntax here. Come back into Unity. Click and drag operators on the main camera. Make sure it's there. Oh, get rid of the other one that we removed. Why won't you let me delete you? That's a weird issue. Like if a script is missing, it won't let you remove it until you put another script in there. Let me run it, and yeah, okay. So in C#, or at least in Unity, we can in fact use modulus with floats. So there you go. Can't do it in C++. You can do it in C# with Unity. I don't know if you can do it in C# without Unity. Not entirely certain, but yeah. Anyway, so there you go. Experiment solved. Okay. There are a lot of corner cases about what if they have decimals and stuff like that. I don't particularly care. I know it works with modulus and floats. If you want to know, find out on your own and let us know. Experiment. Let me know what you come up with, because I want to stay on topic here. But that is a good idea. Okay. So all right. So let's talk about another shorthand. So let's say I want to add 1 to x. All right, just like this. X plus equals 1. We can do that, but again, that's kind of like, that's a little bit longer than what it needs to be. We can shorthand this even further, and we use something called the incrementer. All right, and the incrementer looks like this: plus plus x. And all that basically means is add 1 to x. That's it. Plus plus x says add 1 to x. Very simple. Simply like that. And the cool thing about the incrementer is, unlike the other assignment operators, we can use it in the middle of a line of code. So for instance, let's say I wanted to do this. Int y equals plus plus x. All right, so what this is saying is increment x and then assign it to y. And I'll go ahead and put this in here. And we'll see in here, we should have the value of 6 when I run this. And we see the value is 6. All right, it's kind of small for you guys, but trust me when I'm telling you the value is in fact 6. All right, so that is our incrementer operator. All right, so it just basically we can do plus plus x plus or plus 8. This is usable atomically, and by that I mean it's usable amidst the rest of your code, right? So it's kind of a neat assignment operator in such a way. Now, here's a good question for you. there are two incrementers as well as two decrementers. There's plus plus x, okay, just like you see here, and there is, oh, it's not going to let me declare y again, so I'll just type it here. There's x plus plus. Those are both incrementers, but they do very specific things. So the first one we saw, plus plus x, incremented x, turned 5 into 6, put it into y, and we saw 6 here. All right? And actually, let me do this. This will help demonstrate the point even better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print y. We can use the plus sign to add a string in there. So what this is doing is it's going to output y and then it's going to output x. Okay? And so what I should see is it should say 6 comma 6. Or 6 colon 6. And it does. 6 colon 6. So y is 6 and x is 6. Alright? Right there. Now, let's talk about x plus plus. This is post-incrementing. The other is pre-incrementing. This one's post-incrementing. So let's look what happens here. I'll go ahead and run this. And we see 5 colon 6. All right? So that gives us some insight into what's happening. I love those of you who are following along and giving the answers in chat before I get there. I'm just reading through it. It's like, yeah, man, why am I even talking? These guys got it. So basically, the difference is this. When I say x plus plus, what I'm saying is assign the value of x to y and then increment it. All right. Now, if I say plus plus x, I'm saying increment x and then assign it to y. So it's basically just a matter of when the increment happens. Okay, when this stuff occurs. Right? If I increment first or if I increment after. And so that's just the two ways to use it. And no, you can't do this. That does not work. I wish it did because I think that looks awesome, but that you can't do that. Likewise, I talked about the incrementer. There's also the decrementer, which is just plus or minus minus x, and it works the exact same, x minus minus. All right. So yeah, those completely work. All right, 1 second here. I'm going to read chat. Yep. Okay, so anyway, yep, everyone's I'm just making sure we didn't have any questions. Okay, so that's our incrementer and that's our decrementer, and they work like assignment, right? Basically adding 1 or subtracting 1, but without the equal sign, all right, because they're basically just shorthanded versions. All right, so now let's talk about, yeah, I was quiet for a second because I was reading chat. I can't read and talk at the same time. I guess I'm not brained enough for that, but all right, so let's talk about now the equality operators. So we've talked about the arithmetic operators and we've talked about assignment operators. So now let's kind of talk about equality here. So equality operators is basically just going to tell me whether or not I'm dealing with a true or a false. That's it. The only value that can come out of an equality operator is true or false. There's no arithmetic, there's no data, basically. It's basically just true or false. So because it's true or false, the variables that contain them will be Boolean variables, Bool. Okay, bools can only contain the values true or false. So I'm going to create a bool called result here. And basically all I'm going to do is this is going to contain whether or not something was successful or unsuccessful. And you can't just have that line of code, but I'm just kind of setting up this here just to be there. Okay, stop doing that. Okay, so we're going to say bool result, which is a variable named result, which is a Boolean type. And we're going to set it equal to, and let's talk about some of our equality operators. In equality operators, like I said, just read something and they return true or false. Now this may not seem like a lot, this equality operator we're about to talk about, but this is the fundamental principle of modern programs. All right, it doesn't seem like all that much, but this is a computer's ability to understand and make decisions. So while it may not seem like a whole lot right now, right, I want you to remember in your brain that this is the fundamental principle of everything you take for granted in every video game and program and application and everything. Traffic lights and cars and our whole modern world is basically this. Okay? And that, to me, I think that's pretty awesome. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're basically going to compare, and we're going to allow the computer to decide. So let's say I wanted to know if one thing equals another thing. I'm going to say int x equals 5, int y equals 5. All right, very simple. If I want to know if these two are the exact same, I can say x double equals y. Now notice this equal sign and this are not the same thing. All right, this is a single operator, even though it's two simples. It's a single operator that means is this equal, and it will return back a true or a false, and that's it. Okay, so in this case, it's going to decide if these are the same two things, and it's going to put it in our variable result, and we're going to output result to the screen. So allow me to save this, come back into Unity, and is x equal to y? The answer is yes, true. They are the same thing. All right. Now, if y were to equal 15, I would see false. Oh, just like that. Okay. The biggest problem I see with most people, the biggest issues they have, the mistakes they make, is they say something like this. This does not work. All right? It might run, okay, but it's not giving you what you want. Always remember that if you are comparing two things, you have to have double equals. All right? If you are assigning, it's a single equals. The result of this is that the value of y will be put into x, and then the value of x will be put into results. All right? This may or may not work. In C++, this will work. This will give you true. Even though these are not the same, you'll get true here, and you'll think they're the same, and your whole equation, everything, the rest of your program is going to be completely screwed up as a result. All right? Always remember, two equal signs for equality. Okay, that's super important. All right. Here in America, they have this habit of putting an equal sign on everyone's cars to promote equality, and it drives me absolutely insane because it should be two equal signs. But that's because I'm a computer programmer, and most other people don't see that the same way I do. But yes, drives me nuts. All right. One of the questions, can there be functions in functions? No, but there can be functions that call other functions inside of them, which is kind of an important distinction. Anyway, so this is our basic equality operator. Now, if I wanted to determine greater than or less than, that also works too. Very good, Giant Simon. At least you got the equality operator correct. So I can say something along these lines, which is x greater than y? And in this instance, the answer will be false. Y is 15, x is 5. X is not greater than y. The result is false. The result is not 5 or 15 or anything like that. The result is just false. Okay? Likewise, I can say, is x less than y? And the answer is true. All right? Y is bigger than x, and so this is true. Okay? Now, if I were to say x is 15, y is 15, this is false because x is not less than y. They're the exact same. All right. So there's your less than and there's your greater than. Now let's talk about our next operator, all right, which is less than or equal to. And in this case, this will give us true because it's not less than, but it is equal to. All right. Likewise, I can say it's greater than or equal to, just like that. All right. So greater than or equal to, this will also give us true because they're both 15. All right. So we talked about the equality comparison equals greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. If I want to know if they're not the same, all right, I will type this. Okay, x does not equal y. Okay, basically, anytime you see the exclamation point in programming, it means not, does not. Okay, so this is saying, hey, x does not equal y. And note that it's not this. It's not does not double equals, right? It's just does not equal, just like that. X does not equal y. And in this case, the result will be false because they're the exact same. So does x not equal y? No, x equals y. You're getting kind of double negative there. X does not equal y is incorrect because x does equal y. Let's see here. I see some questions. Let's see. Can we put a function inside of itself even? No, we cannot. I just said that. Can we use if instead of bool variable? No, if uses those bool variables in a very specific way, which we'll get to next. At some point, am I going to talk about class destruction constructors? Absolutely, but definitely not today. We will get there, though. In other tutorials I've seen, they told me you have to use, well, those other tutorials are absolutely incorrect. You do not do this. It won't even let me do this. It just says right there, syntax error. You can't do that. So whatever tutorial said to do that was incorrect. So sorry, whoever wrote that. I hope I don't hurt your feelings, but you are wrong. So here we go. So this is our does not equal operator. All right. Alternatively, what we can do is we can compare Booleans. I mean, we can say true equals false, and that'll give us false because true does not equal false. I can say something like not true, and the result will be false, right? So Boolean logic is a little bit it's playful. You can do a lot of stuff with it, right? We can use the keywords true. I can say x doubles equals 5 double equals 5. I don't know why you'd want to do this, but you can certainly do this. So 5 equals 5 is true, and then it's going to say while true is, or if true is true, and then the result is true. You know, basically we can do all sorts of wackiness like that. Now let's talk about compound comparisons. So we talked about equals, we talked about less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and not equals. So let's talk about putting them together. Computers can only make one decision at a time. No matter how complex they seem, they can only make one decision at a time. Basically, computers are just so very, very fast at making decisions. It seems like they're doing many things at the same time, but they're not. All right? Computers are very, very simple machines. Okay? They just happen to operate very, very quickly. All right? So let's say I want to know if my health is greater than 50. Right? This is easy enough. I'll just say health. Health equals 50. There we go. And I can say bool health, let's say, is greater than 25. So we all know the result of this is going to be true. My health is 50. All right. 50 is greater than 25. The result is true. But what if I want to know if my health is greater than 25 and my armor is greater than 25? Right? Both of those things at the same time. Well, now let's do armor equals 10. Now I'm getting into and, okay? So let's say this. So I'm going to say, is my health greater than 25? Yes. The result of this is true, right? Now, if I want to do a comparison to the next, right? And I see a lot of you jump to conclusions and they already put double ampersand in, and I'm sorry, you are wrong. I'll explain why you're wrong in a second. You're actually kind of right, but you're kind of wrong too. So I will tell you exactly in a second why. But so I have health is greater than 25 and, okay, and armor is greater than 25. All right? And this will return to me. So I have one true statement and one false statement. With an and, both have to be true to give me true. Okay? Is both this true? Is this true and that true? No. So the result is false. Okay? I'm going to explain the difference. A lot of you are confused that put the double ampersands, why I said you're wrong. A lot of people don't know this. So I'll explain it in a second. So basically, we have, is this true and is this true? No, they're both, one of them is false, so the whole thing is false, right? Now, if I were to say is less than 5, that becomes true, and the whole thing gives me true. True and true is true, okay? Next, I can say, what if I want to know if one is true or the other is true? All right, so let me say this. Let me save this here. If I want to know if either of these is true, I will say or. And or is a single pipe. The pipe is the symbol right above the enter key on a QWERTY keyboard. Well, Idea Wizard, you're you're actually kind of incorrect there too. So I'll explain. So we have all these people guessing why they're wrong, but I'll explain it. Don't you worry. I'll get you there. So this is our logical OR, and so in this case, armor is not greater than 25 because armor is only 10, but health is greater than 25. Since I'm doing OR, it's saying is either of these correct? One is true, one is false. The result is true because I only need one of them to be correct, right? And as a matter of fact, I can keep going with these. I can do as many of these. Ooh, wow. I mean, I can stack all this stuff as much as I want with these logical operators, really. And basically, it'll just keep finding out the true, false, and then doing these comparisons and stuff like that. Another question is, can you do result is greater than 20, result is greater than 10? Oh, but that's with if statements, so I'm not quite getting into those yet. So here's the deal. This is why, this is the difference why everyone uses the double ampersand and the single ampersand and stuff like that. So let me rearrange this here. I'm going to say armor is greater than 25 and health is greater than 25. Now, the result of this is false, okay? Because this is false and this is true. The result of an AND is false. If one is false but the other one's true and I need both of them to be true, the whole thing becomes false. Here's the difference. This is why a lot of you use the double ampersand, and I always use the double ampersand too, but it's important to know the difference. In this case, this is compared, and we come up with a value of false, and then this is compared, and we come up with a value of true. So it compares this, and then it compares that. So you'll notice this. It compares this value even though it doesn't have to, because this one's already false. So no matter what, it doesn't matter if the cure for cancer is here, all right? It's false. The whole thing is false. It does not matter what the second line or second thing is, all right? But we're comparing it anyway. When we use a single ampersand, if we use a double ampersand, this is called a short circuit operator, okay? What that means is this. If this is false, we don't bother to compare the second one. It's slightly faster, ever so slightly faster. All right, yeah, cure for cancer, have health greater than 25. This is ever so slightly faster because if this is false, we ignore this next one, we save ourselves one comparison, and our program is minusculely faster. And there's really no downside. There's almost no downside to using your double ampersand, right? Because it's just basically faster, right? The only reason we would ever want to use the single ampersand over the double ampersand is if we were doing something in here like health or plus health is greater than 25. Well, we're modifying this value, so we want this to run. Even if it's wrong, we want it to run because then it's incrementing, right? But if you're doing that, you're getting into some really bad coding structures anyway. Basically, it's entirely up to you, but it's generally 99% of the time better to do double ampersand, all right? But if you have something crazy in mind that you want to try out with a single ampersand and doing some other calculations in here, go for it. I'm not going to stop you, right? Absolutely go for it, okay? So now let's talk about the OR. And let me come back here and let me say health is greater than 25 or armor is greater than 25. Okay, in this case that's false and this one is true. Now, since this one is true, the whole line is going to be true no matter what, because or only one of them has to be true. Okay, so by having this, right, we don't bother to compare the second one. All right, and that's the key there. We don't bother to compare the second one, and so we can ignore that. And Idea Wizard, you said both are true simultaneously, and that's not quite correct. One is where it'll skip the second comparison, which is what's important. So yeah, double pipes here means if this is true, we do not bother to compare the second one. So you will always see me do doubles. Double ampersands, double pipes for the short circuit and the short circuit OR. All right. but realistically, they're not the logical and or, they're the short circuit and or. And that's our big difference. Okay, so a lot of people don't know that. So of all those people that don't know that, you all know that. So haha, +1. You can now beat people up with your brains. There you go, because you know stuff. Yes, very important stuff. I've seen it asked actually in job interviews and stuff. So there you go. Now you are armed with knowledge for job interviews or whatever. I don't know. It'll probably never come up. But if it does, you'll feel like a genius. I keep waiting to be on a game show and have someone ask me that, and I'll know the answer and win $1 million. And I know that'll never happen because I don't go on game shows, but hey, a guy can dream. Okay, so those are pretty much all of our logical things, okay? Oh, and check this out too. I can also do this. Let's say I'm doing this, all right? And this is obviously false, right? Because health is greater than 25 is true, armor is greater than 25 is false, so this whole thing becomes false because we're using and. But what if I were to do this? Put that in parentheses, and then put an exclamation point there. Now the result is true, because this equates to false, and then it gets flipped by this because that means opposite. So now I have a true and a true, right? So yeah, we can do a lot of stuff, right? But basically that's kind of what we're dealing with, right? So this just flips it. So if it was true, it becomes false. If it was false, it becomes true. And then the result of this whole thing will be true as a result. So yeah, anyway, a lot of stuff we can do there. Just kind of an FYI, just so you know. All right, I got a little bit longer. So let me start if statements, and then we'll kind of trail off there. So if statements kind of expand on this idea of binary logic, which is your true or false Booleans, right? And allow the computer to actually fork the code path, right? So what we have right now is the code starts here in our start method, right? And it goes sequentially down every line of code. And then when it hits this bracket, it exits, right? So yeah, you know, it's very basic code progression. And up till now, every line of code is executed in order. And our if statement gives us an opportunity to change that. It gives us the opportunity to have specific code paths, some that execute and some that don't. Right? We call this logic forking, and it basically gives our computer the ability to make decisions that matter. Right? Because right now, these decisions that the computer is making don't matter. Right? I mean, they're nice for a result, but we can't do anything special with anything in it, right? If that makes sense. Epic Test Dummy, I see your question. You can't seem to open a C# script. I don't know, maybe reboot the computer. I have no idea. You should be able to just double-click and open MonoDevelop. If the prompt persists, contact support at Unity 3D. I do not know what's happening, so sorry. You can always grab the script and open it like Notepad and follow along. You won't have this interface, but this is just a text file. I can write this in Notepad, WordPad, Word. It doesn't matter. It's just text, right? So I don't need MonoDevelop. I don't need Visual Studio. As a matter of fact, most of my day-to-day coding I do in like Notepad or Notepad++, just because it's easy. I don't know. I don't use a lot of that crap. Anyway, I'm kind of getting off topic there. So let's talk about the if statement. And the if statement is very simple syntax. And if statements can only use true and false. That's it. All of the decisions the computer can make are always just true or false. And all if statements work like that. And basically we're saying if something, right? If this happens, then do this, right? And so the syntax is just if, if. Okay, and I might say if health is greater than armor, and then I will have two brackets. So this is the syntax of our if statement, okay? And we're basically saying if health is greater than armor, and then anything that happens inside these brackets will execute, all right? So I might say print health was greater than armor. Simple, right? Let's go ahead and run it. I'll come back here in Unity, I'll run it, and I will see health was greater than armor. Okay? We have this special line of code that allows us to do that. Now, what if armor was 100? Now, this will equate to false and not true, and this will not execute. So let's try it. And I see nothing here. All right, so our code, this is brand new. If you've never written an if statement, this is completely new to you. Basically, you just wrote code that sometimes does not execute. All right, that may not seem all that important, but that's very, very, very important. Imagine if you opened up an application on your phone and it ran every one of its processes and lines of code at the exact same time. All right, that would not be very helpful at all. All right, we need if statements to do all this stuff. Question, when would you compare to see if health is greater than armor? I don't know. This is just an example. I'm not saying it's a good example. It's an example. While we're here, real quick, while we're still talking about this, let me point out one of the issues that you might have. All right. If health equals armor, print health equals armor. All right? So we should not see health equals armor, right? But I'm going to run this. Oh, you know what? That's unfortunate. I was hoping it wouldn't give me an error and it would just show me health equals armor, but Unity was too smart for me. Oh well. I was trying to be sly, okay? But we're going to see this error. Cannot implicitly convert type int to bool, all right? And I'm sure some of you might know why this is happening. Some of you might not know why this is happening. But we're seeing can't convert an int to a Boolean, all right? And the reason is that we are using a single equal sign here. This is that mistake I told you would all make. I still do it from time to time. Everyone has this issue from time to time. But you have to be very careful that what we're basically doing is we're taking armor, which has a value of 10, and setting it equal to health, which now has a value of 10. So 10 is in here, not true or false, and if can't evaluate 10, right? Ifs can only evaluate true or falses, all right? If I was doing this in C++, I would just get true, and it would say health equals armor, even though health does not equal armor, right? And I'd be like, why is my code not working? This computer is stupid, but it's not the computer's fault. Remember this, it is never the computer's fault. If you think the computer is stupid, perhaps you should look in the mirror, because the computer can only do exactly what you tell it to do. So if you break it, then it's you that broke it. So always remember, double equal sign inside an if statement, all right? And now we won't see anything, and nor will we have an error, which is nice. All right, so no, we don't see anything, we don't have an error. Now, I could say, what if I were to get crazy like this? So we know that's false, health does not equal armor, but I throw an exclamation point on there. So now we're saying, does health not equal armor? So we get weird with it, and we hit play, and we should see health equals armor, even though it doesn't, but we threw the not sign in there. So we can stack all the same logical operators that we looked at before. I could say, does health equal armor, or, okay, is health greater than 30? So think to yourself real quick, this is test time, all right? Will this print to the screen or will this not print to the screen? Really think about that. I'm saying if health equals armor or health is greater than 30, will this print to the screen? Will this not print to the screen? Well, let's go ahead and try it and see if you're right. And the answer is that it does in fact print to the screen, all right? Because we are using an or statement. This is false, this is true, and thus the whole thing is true. That's the key to or statements. All right. So this is the basic syntax of the if statement. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up now. All right. We've gotten about our hour in, maybe just a little bit under. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Next time we do one of these scripting primers, we will do more. We're going to hit more of the if statement. We're going to talk about ifs. We're going to talk about if-else ifs and if-elses. We're going to talk about switch statements. We've got loops to get through and functions. Well, there's a lot of coding to get through. But basically, we're just trying to make it nice and granular and things like that. So real quick too, as someone mentioned, I did draw a picture for today and I completely forgot to show all of you, so with a few minutes left I'm going to show you now. So in case any of you thought that programming was not important, or that coding was too difficult, or coding wasn't cool, or coding wasn't powerful, I give you evidence to the contrary. coding is in fact incredibly important and powerful, and I drew up Codeman to kind of prove the point to you. If you're on Facebook, you saw this picture yesterday. I drew it up yesterday and posted. But the power of programming is very important, and realistically, if you think about it, video games do not exist without code. None of them. No matter how great an engine is, there's no such thing as games without code, because the engines are software. It's all software. No video gaming without code. So I decided to draw this up for everybody. Yeah. I meant to post this at the very beginning of the session before we got into it, and then I forgot. But all right, so this is the note I'm going to end on. And real quick, before we end on the image note, I'm going to say, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions for future videos or anything like that, contact us on Twitter, at Unity3D, at Mike Geig, which is me, at Wool Goldstone, and at The Ant Ranch. Come and hang out, check that stuff out. I'll come back here now, since I did my little plug there. Also, check out our live sessions. Next week is 2D animation with character controllers in Mechanim, which is going to be awesome. And a lot of you people requested that session. And so come check it out, because we're going to do a lot of cool stuff with the new 2D tools, and it's really simple, and you'll see how very quickly and easily you could make video games with new 2D tools, and it's actually pretty darn awesome. I will be posting more of these scripting primers, so just keep your eyes open. I haven't posted them yet, but they're coming. On the 23rd of December, we have a hangout scheduled. I don't know how that's going to go, but basically there's no agenda. We're just going to hang out, and I'll answer any questions you have, and then we'll take a little break for the holidays. So thank you all for coming out to watch the coding primer, scripting primer here. If you have other questions, please feel free to contact me, and I will answer them as best as I can. And any suggestions, like I said. Real quick, kind of what we went over today. We kind of brushed up on variables again. We talked about public versus private. We covered all of the operators. We talked about arithmetic operators, assignment operators, equality operators, and logical operators. And we did a little bit of if statements, which we will elaborate more next time we meet. So thank you all very much for attending. If you have further questions, like I said, contact me or look online. There's so many really good resources available to you to learn scripting, to learn Unity and stuff like that. So yeah, feel free to check it out. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, that is going to cover it for me. And if you have anything else, you can hit me up on Twitter. And otherwise, I want you all to have a very fantastic week, and I will see you Monday.